Go, guys, we are live. Hey, welcome everybody. It's a new night. It was a short week, right? Short back-to-back week, right? We had the short week because we went Thursday last week, and now we're back on Wednesday nights. This is the permanent time, guys. This is it. So welcome to the Good Life, everybody. Again, we appreciate you jumping on. If you're following us on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or over here on Instagram, hey, welcome. I want to have another great conversation with you guys tonight. Got my guys here. What's up, guys? Say hello first and foremost. Hey.
Hey.
What do you do, baby?
Yeah.
Welcome to Why Not Version Wednesday of the Good Life.
That's right. Why not? Why not version?
Oh, you said why not? I thought you
Why
said
not
wine.
Wednesday?
I thought you said wine out.
Oh, are we doing that?
That's what I heard. I was like,
wine out. But either way, we're here, guys. New night, Wednesday. We're sticking to Wednesday nights. We got a great topic for you tonight. We're going to dive deep into entrepreneurship and some of those doubts and fears, the things that really cloud our brain from getting to the good life. Before we jump in, though, let me catch up with you two. Let's take a minute. Stu, jump in. Tell us what's going on in business, because a lot of times we don't get a chance to talk about these things. We just kind of come in. We've all been busy. We've all been rocking and rolling. But what do you got going on right now in business? Let the people know.
Okay, word. All right. So for those of you that don't know, I'm an all-around life coach. I've ended up kind of getting into a bit of career and business coaching, just because a lot of people have more of a tendency to invest in their career than necessarily in their life. So that's been cool. And right now I've got about anywhere from, I would say, about 6 to 10 clients per week, and we sit down and we get into the details. Like we focus on, what decisions that they're really struggling on. We focus on, where they're trying to get in life and how we can take that big vision and figure out a plan and what's the first step. Where do we go from there? So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on for me right now. And I've also started a couple of other side hustles as of yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I actually had.
Tell us one.
I actually just had my first acting modeling gig yesterday.
No way.
That was sick, dude. So I'm a big fan of practice what you preach. If you got a dream, go after it one bite at a time. So you can see me in some stock photos. that's my start. Yeah.
A hand model? Are you a Seinfeld fan?
I don't know, man.
You're a Seinfeld fan?
I am, and I've heard of the hand model thing.
Yes.
Actually, my buddy a long time ago asked our teacher when she said she was a model. He was like, "Wait, do you mean like a hand model?" She did not like that.
Yeah. It's a great Seinfeld episode about being a hand model. Trust me, it's a great one.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. Like you said, you got to practice what you preach. Now get a chance to dabble in some other things, right? Really be able to pick up some other streams, right? Find some other passions. That's what we talk about, right? Really being able to get those things. I think Kobi's Wi-Fi just got jacked up. He should be coming on or coming back at some point. I think he said he's trying to get back on. But either way, for us, for me, hey, April's always a big month, right? April's financial literacy month. A lot of people don't, subscribe to it or really understand, but it's us, the financial planners, financial coaches of the world, that are constantly putting out the information in the month of April. So April's been really good. I've gotten a chance to educate a ton of people. We've held a webinar or two to talk about financial services, but to really just talk about money in general. Because again, being able to build wealth, being able to just understand where you sit financially is just, it's important, right? We can't pass over the importance of understanding your money and kind of where you sit. So job's never done, man. Always educating, always more people to talk to, always more information to give, always more guidance to give. So that's been our thing for the month so far. But things have been good, man. Things have been good. So
here we go.
Yeah, we're back. It's just me and you now, but we got to wait until Kobi comes back in. But either way, for everybody else that's checking in while Kobi is getting back on and jumping in, like I said, we want to have this conversation with you guys tonight. We're talking about the 10, and I think we have the full list, right? We even got organized for you guys tonight, right? We got a full list of what are some of the common fears, common questions, and things that actually get asked or that we ask ourselves when we're diving into entrepreneurship, right? You know, Stu, you're very open about like your entrepreneurial journey thus far and kind of, you know, the ebbs and flows and what's been happening. So a lot of this conversation is going to resonate with you. Hopefully, resonates with all the people that are listening. But talk a little bit real quick about, you know, one or two of your fears. We'll get into the list, but talk about one or two of the things that have popped up for you in your journey of entrepreneurship.
I think the first one, there's so many that come to mind, but I think the first one was, am I crazy? Because I left a very, very like stable salary in what the world deemed as an essential business of construction management. I left that, and there were some conversations with my parents who were pretty protective of me and just all kinds of stuff. So when I went off on my own gig and I threw away that, what I like to call a morphine drip of a salary, if you're not liking what you're doing, I was just asking myself, like, what am I doing? Am I crazy? Because like I know I've always been one with a higher risk tolerance, but this was like the next level. So that was the one that kept asking me, like, am I crazy? Is it going to work out? All the above. What's one of the big ones for you? And welcome back, Kobi.
Thank you. Apparently, my whole internet just dropped.
Listen, something's been happening because internet's been dropping all over the country, man. I'm across the country and my internet was dropped like 2 or 3 days ago. So I understand it, man.
Ooh.
Understand it. Anyway, you want to? Are you frozen on IG? I think I'm frozen on.
Let me get everybody back on there.
Cool.
But go ahead, Chris. I think you were going to say something, and then
I'll Stu, just kind of going back to what you were just saying, just kind of some of the things that you were thinking about, right? As far as like, am I crazy, right? Parents not believing in you type of thing. I think we all, to some degree, have that happen when we jump off the ledge, so to speak, right? Or take that step into territory that's unknown for our loved ones. They kind of struggle a bit to support it. So it often leaves you questioning, like, did I do the right thing? Like, is this the right thing? Like, am I sure about this? So I completely agree and completely understand. Let's jump into this list though, so that while we're getting Instagram up and running, some of the top ones that we started to think about that every entrepreneur really goes through and asks themselves. I think one of the first questions that they ask is, am I ready? Right? Am I ready for this? Am I ready to be an entrepreneur? Am I ready to step into this arena? Give me some of your thoughts, guys, on what this means as far as like how people are looking at it. Are they ready?
Yeah, I can hop in here. I think it's for me it was a couple different levels of am I ready? Am I ready financially? Like, can I sustain myself for a period of time? Am I ready to wear all of the hats? Because as much as is, you know, when leaving corporate, for example, it was all about, you know, oh, I can do that. Kind of underestimate that. Oh, it's kind of nice to have a copy room, or it's kind of nice to have you know, people who are taking things off of your plate. So you forget all those things, all the little things, right? Stamps, like even going to the mail room in a corporate room and getting stamps. I don't know if you ever worked in a place like that. But I think, am I ready also comes down to really essential question that we'll probably tap on a lot later is, you know, a fear of failure. What happens if I fall flat on my face? So that's where I think the source of am I ready for me is coming from. Like, what happens if, bam, insert the worst possible thing that could come to mind. What do you guys think?
Well, I think, you know, going off the idea of what happens if I fail, I think that question is so different for everybody that's considering going off on their own into entrepreneurship. You know, I think if for me being in, you know, essential business, I knew that if I did fail, it would be relatively easy to get a job in construction again. It's an industry that's always going to be there. It's always going to be hiring. It is a incredibly hungry machine. But I know a lot of other individuals that, that are in a less quote unquote essential business where the need is not always there. The machine is not always growing. And, when it comes to like asking that question of like, what happens if I fail? You have a couple of choices when it comes to starting off on entrepreneurship. You can either cut cold turkey like I did and just, I'm done. Here's my 2 weeks going right into the new path. Or you can build like a side hustle plan that's traditionally recommended, like all across the board, is like, build a little side hustle and see where it goes. And once the revenue starts to get up and you start to get a little bit more confidence with it, then you can shift to like a part-time gig or whatever. But that whole what happens if you fail thing, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest inhibitor to like everybody thinking about entrepreneurship. It's a great point.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's key, right? Just my 2 cents on the am I ready question. I don't think you'll ever be ready, but you're never ready for anything in life for real. If you really think about it, right? They always ask like, are you ready to have kids? So yeah, kind of, but you're not really ready, right? Like, are you ready to get married? Yeah, kind of ready, but like, you're not really ready. You know what I mean? Like all of these things kind of fall under the same place of like, yeah, you're ready, but you're not ever going to be fully ready. Like it's never going to be like, oh, all of the stars aligned perfectly. I had everything exactly where I wanted it. And then I started my business. It's normally not the way that it's going to work. But it is a real question that people ask themselves is, am I ready? Like, am I ready to take this on? And I think you have to sit with yourself and answer that question, whatever the answer is going to be. And that kind of leads into the second question of our topic. The second question that a lot of people bring up in their journey or as they're getting started is, well, the money thing. Will I make money? That's what makes a lot of people not think they're ready. I don't have money saved. I don't even make enough to invest in my business or whatever. So then this other side comes, will I make enough money? Will I actually make enough money? Give me your thoughts on that, guys. What do you think? Like this question that pops up, is it a legit question? How do we get people through this process of questioning and doubting and fearing what happens if they don't make enough money?
I think it's a great question, man. I think it's an excellent question, and I want to start out by saying there's no good or bad in that. Like, there's just really no. If you're like me, you're gonna beat yourself up, like, oh, am I ready? I'm not ready. I'm ready. And you're like going back and forth all the time like that. But will I make enough money? Also, I think to go back a little bit. I think a lot of folks don't realize that entrepreneurship is in so many different forms. For example, if you want to get into real estate and you become a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur. So the question of will I make enough money is very real because people don't realize it's a feast or famine industry. Like you either eating good, it's one of those. You guys ever seen Wicked Tuna? On the fishing network or whatever it is, Wicked Tuna, where they get this like 10,000 pound tuna and they go in and they make a whole bunch of money. Everybody splits it. But if there's no tuna, nobody eats. It's just like that. Literally, if there's no house sold, there's no house bought, nobody eats. You're an entrepreneur. Will I make enough money? It's a real thing, and I think it comes down to proper preparation that doesn't lead you into hesitation, too much hesitation, right? Proper preparation, like do enough research in that this is the average deal size in my area. This is the average sales cycle in my area. This is the average right? Gather as much as you can and then prep as much as you can by doing a lot of the other stuff we've talked about that you do with your personal finances before you get down to entrepreneurship.
Huge on the financial piece, right? I know we're going to probably touch on that a bunch today, but that just has so much to do with your preparedness and jumping out and starting a business, right? Financially, you've got to be prepared for those things. But Stu, let me hear what you think about this question of, will I make money?
Yeah, well, I think, one of the questions you posed is it a legit question? And Kobi kind of got at that too. And I just want to reinforce that is absolutely a legitimate question. Are you like the society we live in revolves presently or very heavily around money. So if you don't take the time to just simply analyze like what your fixed expenses, what your non-expenses are, and really try and get down to the bare bones of like, look, this is how much money I need to at least live paycheck to paycheck, at least bare minimum. All risk, where like if you total a car or something happens, like you're really on thin ice. Like, but getting to that question, getting to that number of knowing like this is how much money I need to make, having some type of business plan, some awareness of like I'll need this many clients, I'll need this type of package, like I'll need something X amount of times for me to live. Like without having that knowledge, how are you going to come about with a financial plan for your new business? Like how are you going to know if you're going to make it or if you're going to end up homeless or in some type of debt or taking out personal loans and going down that rabbit hole? So I think it's an absolute legitimate question. I think, you guys both touched on like fundamentals of finances, like saving, having, rainy day fund, like for me, planning out like X months of expenses, because there is going to be a time when you start your business where you're not making the money that you can eventually make. That's like the most bland way I can put that. How I could also put that is you could go many months without making any money before all of a sudden you figure out the rhythm and you hit the jackpot and it goes up. It just depends. It depends on your business plan, how much thought you put into it, what you've laid before, like the groundwork you've laid before you got started. So I think that question is huge. I think for me, general recommendations, figure out, once again, number one, how much money do you need to survive? Like, I'm not talking partying, drinking, any of that. I'm talking rent, utilities, and food, like bare minimum, like, your car rent, your car payments, like things like that, like things that you absolutely have to pay. Step two, account for your business plan and the model of growth before you reach a certain amount of income. So that way you can figure out how many months of that bare minimum standard of living that you're comfortable with, how many months you need saved up before you get started. Because you do have to have something saved up, because you're going to have a lot of business expenses up front, certifications, different types of just upfront costs that you're going to have the capital for. So I think it's an amazing question to actually study, and don't just be afraid of that question. Like, break it down into a plan, figure out the numbers. Don't let your fear like take control. Put it in Excel.
Yeah, and I want to add to that a little bit here. I think it's also a question of, oh man, we took the question down, huh? Yeah, I think we should put that back up.
The question went up and he froze.
I know, right?
That was it. The straw that broke the Wi-Fi's back.
There we go. I put the question up for you, and then your Wi-Fi freezes, man. What's going on?
I can hear you on IG. Now I can.
Anyways, so I think could be we lost him again. But either way, as soon as he clicks back in here, everybody else, you guys saw the question, will I make money? Let me add my 2 cents while he gets back in. You said a couple things in there, Stu, that I could go either way with it. I had to write it down because I knew I'd possibly forget what you said about figuring out your bare minimum, right? Figuring out like, what is it that I need to bring in just to live paycheck to paycheck, right? What is it that we have to actually do? The scariest part about this is when people are starting off, because they're come from an employee side, typically they are living above their means anyway to begin with, right? So if you look at the bare minimum when you're at a job, it might be $4,000 a month. So then you think, how ever am I going to make $4,000 a month on this side of entrepreneurship? But what they don't often factor in is the fact that some of that 4,000 is fluff. It's not actual things that you need, because that's not your bare minimum. right? It's what you got comfortable in. And sometimes when you take that step in entrepreneurship, sometimes you have to take those minimum expenses from $4,000 to $2,500 and really find what your bare minimum is, because then that's what makes it more palpable for you to be able to transition out and go into that entrepreneurial venture that you want to. But a lot of times that bare minimum, you think it's more than what it actually really needs to be. And that's a hurdle that I think a lot of people have before they kind of dive over into this entrepreneurship side. And the other way I was going to take what you said just about making enough money, you said like you got to know your business. You got to know like how many clients do I have to bring this amount? How much am I charging? What are my profit margins? A lot of times people don't even know those things, right? Just how much do you make off of one thing that you sell if you're selling a product? How much is your service worth? How much is your time worth? And again, this is the balance. I don't even think we're going to talk about it in this, but that's a balance of knowing like, well, what is the market willing to pay for me? Because some people just getting started out, right? We want to have confidence in ourselves, but the market in business is what tells you what you're worth. So you can't go charge $500 an hour and the market is going to tell you, no, I'm not willing to pay that for your limited knowledge or your limited expertise. So you might be down at $100 an hour and you have to be humble enough and okay enough to know that's where I'll be. Then how many clients do I need to make this amount of money, right? It's all calculated. You know what I mean?
And while I love the level of detail you just went to, because like while we're on that, let's just use that number. I think you went from 4,000 a month. Can you still hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can. We're good.
I think we went from $4,000 a month down to $1,500. So
2,500. Yeah,
2,500. Okay. So let's keep this example going. If you're realizing that the market average for someone with a decent amount of experience, credentials, etc., is 500 an hour, but you look at some of the lower end for people without experience, that's $100 an hour. Cool. So now if you got to make $2,500 over the course of a month, you're making $100 an hour. Then you've got to get 25x. If it's sessions, 25 hours exactly of whatever it is that you're charging. If it's a product, then you got to do the same type of math. It's very simple. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think it's very complicated, but it really does come down to that simplicity. The big thing that people have to watch out for is what are your business's expenses that are going to get those people to be in a position where they're providing you money for the value that you're giving them. So we're talking overhead. Thankfully, for a lot of what we do is like coaches, et cetera, the overhead's not that big. But I know a lot of guys who start off construction companies and they need to have tools. They need to have like a bare minimum number of hours to support people. Like, so no matter what, they get their guys 40 hours worth of work per week. Equipment, lay down area or some type of office space is another one. So like you have to think about your expenses. So my recommendation, some type of Excel spreadsheet to figure out your own personal expenses and your bare minimum, like your real bare minimum, like Chris was saying, not just what I'm used to making per month. So this is how I behave. No, when you have to start from scratch and scratch and claw and hustle to start off a business, you're going to view your spending a lot different way. I stopped going out to eat. I started getting smoothies, frozen vegetables, meats, and I would do a lot of cooking at home. I got real healthy out of necessity. So, have your personal expenses in one, have your anticipated business revenue in another piece of the spreadsheet, and then have just simply track like a marketing budget, like whatever different types of overhead. All of that stuff is pivotal information that is very simple to do. Just one little cell at a time.
That's it. And that's answering the question. Welcome back, Kobi. Welcome back, man. This is answering the question, will I make enough money? We just went through it. Kobi, you got cut off as soon as we put it up. So if you want to add your 2 cents, you can, or we can move on to the next question. It's up to you.
Let's move on to the next question.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of perseverance.
That's right. That's right.
I literally had to go upstairs and reset the router to be like, what's going on? but
Yeah.
we're here.
We're here. We're making it happen. So moving into that next question, because I think we did. Hopefully, that helped a lot of people. I know that right here, really quick. I know that Aaron said that this was perfect timing for him because this conversation is really resonating with him. So hopefully, it's resonating with a lot of you out there. We appreciate you for checking in, Aaron. Again, these are all of the common fears and doubts people have as they step into entrepreneurship and try to build a business. So we just went over a few. This is one that's major. The next question that we get a lot of times that a lot of people say is, am I going in the right direction? At some point when the road gets hard, because for everyone that doesn't know, the road is not always easy, right? It actually gets a little difficult. It can be a little bumpy. There are some challenges along the way and things to overcome. So inevitably, when you're going down that path, we start to think, and that little voice in our mind starts to say, like, are we going in the right direction? Right? Am I following my passion? Am I following my purpose? Right? Like, am I going in the right direction? Could we jump in there, man? Like, what are your thoughts on that question and how people are asking it to them and what they can do to kind of get out of that?
I think that's a big one. It might be the biggest one because I think the thing that typically drives people to start ventures or to go out on their own or to be entrepreneurs, where they forsake the safety of a structure to start something new, is passion and purpose, right? And I think at some point, if you feel like that's been lost, or at times when I felt like that's been lost, that's when I'm most deflated. All right. But I will say this, I think it's an opportunity to really rewire the thinking and the questioning itself. Am I going in the right direction? Well, that presumes that there is a right direction that you should be moving in. I think that's first and foremost what we have to look at and question. And not just that, but you also have to really look at, like, who is determining that? Like, who are you asking? You call in 411 and be like, hey, still going in the still moving in the right direction, right? Like, who knows that to be true? And so with that said, I think you really have to look at the fact that you are the decision maker. So you get to determine if you're moving in the right direction. So you being brutally honest with yourself, or me being brutally honest with myself as to what is so, and how does that actually help me create what I want to create, or am I just being a prisoner of the moment and just being a Debbie Downer because I'm hitting a little bit of a low and just questioning everything, like what's really going on?
Yeah.
So I think when in doubt, seek guidance. When in doubt, persevere, push forward.
Yeah, man, that's big. Stu, jump in, man.
Yeah. Well, I love the balance that you just played with, Kobi, of guidance versus perseverance. Like I think it was there's some video clip running around of Will Smith mentioning, like, there's absolutely nobody on the planet that knows better what you want than you. Nobody. Like, everybody knows what they want for themselves, and a lot of people go around similar format that we are. So it's like suggesting things that work really well for us, but at the end of the day, you have to decide what you want and what's going to work for you. So I think when it comes to, am I moving in the right direction? For me, trial and error. I swear I'm like on repeat with that expression. That is like defined my whole life. Like, trial and error. Like, am I going in the right direction? Well, have you tried the thing that you're considering yet? What is one of the first things that I get into discussions with some of my first time clients is like, what have you tried so far to help you make this decision? Well, I haven't done anything. I've just thought about it. Well, man, let's get some action steps together. Like, is it a quick class? Is it a certification? Is it some Googling? I mean, you can learn so much from the internet, guys, like totally for free, about whether or not something interests you. Is there somebody in that field who's done that before? Is there anybody you can reach out to in your network that is like further ahead in this journey of what you're considering or trying to do, that you can learn from and ask them, like, hey, what is it like to be this person? What is it like to do these things on a day-to-day basis? What are the pros and cons? For the love of God, keep those in mind, pros and cons, because no matter what your dream is, there are pros and cons to it. And if you're not being aware and taking into consideration the cons in addition to the pros, you may get into this venture and realize that, man, that con just really outweighs a lot of the stuff. So don't put yourself in that situation. Like if you're wondering if you're headed in the right direction or not, trial and error, and just find some type of action item just to get out of your head and try it out.
That's big, man. That's big, right? Like a lot of people, I just had this conversation with somebody on my team a couple days ago in a personal decision, right? She's moving to a different state, and she was in her head a bit, and she was getting to this place of like being frustrated and kind of overwhelmed with understanding kind of what the next moves are. And she was explaining it all to me, and I was like, well, did you call any of the places and like ask them? Did you like put in an application? Like, have you done any action? And she was like, no, not really. And then same exact thing. The next day we come back and she's like, hey, Chris, I did what you said. I called and now I feel way better because it's not it's not going to be as big of a deal as I thought it was. Now I have some extra time and it really alleviated a lot. And I was like, see, it's just a matter of action. And so again, a lot of this is just the entrepreneur mind, right? And the mindset of an entrepreneur. Like, we believe in action, like doing, overthinking. And this is where, right, you've heard me talk about some things on the employee mindset and entrepreneur mindset side, just the schooling that we've had, the education system that we have, it allows us to go that direction of being good at going to get a job and working for someone. And one of those thoughts that gets embedded in us is, I learn and then I do, right? It's a thought that's opposite of the entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs do and they learn, right? But school teaches us our whole life, read this book, then take the test, right? Do all the work and then get the degree. So it's like we're constantly learning just to go do. And then you jump over here to become an entrepreneur and you're just supposed to do, because that's how you learn. That's how you pick it up. That's how you know what questions to ask and which way you're going. And that's a big difference. So again, to cycle back around to finish out this question of just, am I going in the right direction? And am I following that passion or that purpose, or where I feel like are you taking actions towards those things, or are you just sitting in your head? Until you start taking action, going down the path, you will never really know if you're headed down the right direction. But when you do get it, it's because you've been doing the work. It's not just because you've been sitting on the sideline. It's because you've actually been doing the work. So that's important, right? And I think that answers the question. I don't know if anybody wanted to throw something else in there for if they're going in the right direction. No? We're good, man. So that was in. If we keep this rolling, let me jump in on this live. 6th question. I think we're on number 6. Here's a big one. What will people say? What will people say? Like, how many of us and how many of you out there listening, right, have started a business or thought about starting a business or thought about any of those types of things, and then you tell it to somebody, and then all of a sudden they shoot down your dream, or they like poo-poo on your idea, right? They're called dream stealers, dream killers. They happen right away. But that causes a little bit of internal fear, right? It causes a little bit more of that reflective nature. The next time you go and try to talk to somebody about it, you might be like, what is somebody going to say? Right? What's my family going to say? What are my friends going to say if I start this business? If I do well, if I don't do well? What are some of you guys' thoughts on this? Jump in.
Okay, I'll go for it. So, for me personally, I kind of hinted at it earlier. Let's see. Chris, you got the invite for that?
I think it's coming to you.
Cool. All right, so it's saying you're unable to join for whatever reason. I had to X out of my Instagram. That helped. Before I came back in. Anyways, so what people were saying to me, all right, I got you now. What people were saying to me when I first started with this venture is like they were just scared. They were scared for me. I mean, like I started this whole thing right before COVID was coming around, and back then when I put in my notice, COVID was really not a big deal. It was like it was on the horizon. It was overseas, and then towards the end of my 2 weeks, around like spring break of March for a lot of people, it started to become a big deal. By then, I had already told a lot of people, so I was battening down the hatches, and I was still going to do my thing. Yeah. But my friends were scared for me. My parents were terrified. I mean, they were like a lot of questions arose about like, are you throwing it all away? Like why? Like you have this college degree. Like what are you doing? Like, all this time and energy and money that's been put into this. It seems like you're throwing it away. And it's like, it's not. Like what I tell a lot of people is like all of your past experiences lead you to where you are now. You would never know what you know today if it was not for your past experiences. Chris, I'm sure there's things like interpersonal skills, etc., management skills, just like how to deal with people that you picked up from the restaurant industry that you apply in your practice.
That's right. Like, all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And this like every time somebody comes to me for like career transitions, it's always like, yo, tell me what you liked and disliked about the past. What are your skills? And then we work on transferring those skills forward. So a lot of people just like one of the default responses I get is you're throwing it away. Why are you taking this risk? And, the first thing is like, I'm not throwing anything away. This is my life. I'm going to do with it what I want. And I believe in myself. And a lot of people will not necessarily believe in you. They don't know everything that's going on up here.
They don't see your vision. They don't have to see your vision. That's why God gave it to you and not them, Mike. That's why you see it.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, man? What did some people say to you when you first started?
Well, first off, like just taking the entrepreneurial like stance, you shouldn't care what anybody says. Let's just be honest, right? Like you shouldn't like that thought of like I value someone else's opinion over my own. You have to get rid of anyway.
I like that emphasis on over your own.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to branch out because you have a vision and you want to start your business and you want to go this direction, that's your own opinion. Like that's you thinking about the things you want for your life. And if you're conscious enough to care more about what your uncle says, what your friends say, and if that will deter you from thinking about things the way you want to, that's an issue. Like that's an issue. So you've got to get rid of that to be successful as an entrepreneur first and foremost. But also understanding where you start. Most people do care, and most people do start off in that place, hearing the information from friends, family, loved ones, the people that normally we talk to about the business or whatever we're starting, and they give their opinions. They form their opinions right away, and they that influences us a bit.
Yeah,
I know when I left the Cheesecake Factory completely. My mom asked me a bunch, like, are you sure? Like, is this, again, same thing like you said, Stu, like, this is what I went to school for. I have an associate's in culinary arts and a bachelor's in food service management. So now all of this schooling and all of this training and all of this goes by the wayside so I can go this direction. But it just didn't, the life that I wanted to live, the life that I was dreaming about and crafting in my head, wasn't one of a restaurant manager after a while. So at a certain point in time, I had to stop being concerned with what other people would say, right? Or stop being concerned with what, somebody might think about my decision or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, it's a real thought, just for everyone that's listening, that's branching in entrepreneurship. I don't want to deter you, right? Like it's a real thought to have, but you will have to build the muscle eventually of not caring and not valuing or overvaluing other people's opinions over yourself, right? That's really what it comes down to, man. Kobi, welcome back, man. You're going to get a welcome back every time you come back in.
Welcome.
Hey, listen, man. I'm almost embarrassed to come back this time, man. But I don't know what's going on with my internet. But we will. This too shall pass.
That's right.
That's right.
We're going to rock and make it happen. The question that we were just wrapping up on was, what will people say? Like, what are people going to think about us? Throw your 2 cents in on what will people say?
And this one is so critical. I'll speak from the immigrant household perspective. The expectation, the hope, is that education is the way out. And depending on what culture you come from, immigrant wise, you're gonna get a slightly different take on it. All right, if you're Indian, you got to be a doctor or an engineer. If you African, be a businessman or a lawyer. Whatever it is, whatever your flavor is, that's what parents kind of expect. So what I'll say is, piggybacking both of what I heard you say is, at some point you have to be comfortable with who you are, what you are, and what you want to do, and be so comfortable that people become comfortable with it over time.
Mm.
This is I want to just give a head nod to my good friend Kwame, who passed recently. This is one thing that I take from his life, is that dude has such an impact because he just knew who he was. He went through 4 years of college and never drank once. That's just not what he did.
Wow.
Not once. He went through 4 years of college. It blows my mind sometimes. There's so many people, but yeah, he'll be the most lit dude at the party. Comfortable with who he was, knew who he was, knew what he was all about. And I think that comes here. This is not, it's funny because entrepreneurship is just like a little micro, slice or microcosm of life itself. So that's the 2 cents I have there.
Absolutely, man. That's big. That's big.
Well put, man.
The next question kind of might have touched on a bit just by what will people say, but maybe it's what will people think. Those two things kind of go hand in hand a bit, right? What will people say? What will people think? But either way, right? We kind of just answered this question for the last one, but more about what will people say a bit, right? Like what are people going to say out of their mouth type of thing versus what are people thinking about you and your business or why you're moving forward in a business like that, right? Those things are a bit different. Sometimes, having negative word of mouth, right? If you know people or whatever the case is, and they give you some bad feedback or bad word of mouth, that could be a hindrance to your business, or something about your character that they know about you before your business. So again, all these things come into play, and they're real questions, guys. Again, we're just giving you the real questions that we know entrepreneurs are starting to really think about as they're going on their journey. Right? Here's another one, just quick. Will I have to return to work? That fear of man, I might have to go back to work at some point. What if I put myself out there and then all of a sudden got to go back to work? Real thought, real feeling. How do you get through that, Stu? Talk about it a bit.
I love this question because to me, what's up, John? To me, every time this question comes up, what if I have to go back to work? So what? So what? You gave it a shot. You tried. That's so much more than so many people. There's absolutely no shame in taking the shot. No shame. Mm-hmm. If you go out there and you give it your all and you realize it's not quite working out, go back to the drawing board, go back to some steady income, build it all back up again, and go back in to the game more informed. Absolutely more informed. It's a first draft. Chalk it up as an L, but look at the lesson learned and take it into next time. What if you have to go back to work? To me, that's the biggest safety blanket I could ever give myself without actually inhibiting my dream of moving forward. So what if I have to go back to work? So what? That's okay. There's no shame. If you've already gotten past the point where your belief in yourself is so much greater than what other people may say or think, then it doesn't matter. There's no shame that can ever be thrown at you that actually sticks because you know in your heart that you gave it a shot. So you go back to work, go back to the drawing board, come back more prepared next time. It's all good. Welcome back. That's how we look at it.
That's huge. That's huge.
What do you guys think?
Welcome back is right. And Danette said,
thank
nice
you, Danette. Most of what I've gotten, I was thinking about doing a little content piece on this to sidetrack this. So derail Ravis. Is do a little poll on this because I still like what people are gonna vote because now I'm curious.
About what?
I missed it.
Oh, which hair? Which short hair or locked?
Got it.
I think
You guys got a quick take.
I must say.
Say it again.
I think he had the locks locked down. I'm not gonna say
You hit it right.
Yeah, 100% right there, but it was solid. It was solid. I mean, this is too. It's very fresh, very clean, but I like the locks, man.
I don't know, man. Both look good, but I'm partial to the low boy, right? I'm partial to right. You got to stay there, man.
Not biased at all.
Not biased, just a little, right? Only a little, but absolutely, man. Looking good though.
Yeah, what do you say? Curious what you say if you want to put your vote in here. Your vote means a lot. You're one of the mega voters.
One of the mega voters. That's right.
Before we move on, quick thing with the think and say. I think the distinction there a little bit is really realize is that a lot of that battle is in our own heads. Like people actually saying something is like maybe 50%, but the other 50% is what we're running through our heads as entrepreneurs constantly about, what does this person say? What does this person say? What does this person think? Or what are they thinking of the business, et cetera, right? Like driving ourselves insane. And it's funny that note that a lot of this stuff isn't too different for real, just like doing life and being an entrepreneur. So just throw that in there a bit.
It's huge. They go hand in hand. Life, entrepreneurship. I always try to tell people, right? Like once you step into entrepreneurship, you actually start to learn so much more about life. It's the other, right? Like that's what it does. It exposes you to not only who you are, but it exposes you to life. It exposes you to opportunities and possibilities and new ways of thinking and new ways of being. And I'm a big advocate for entrepreneurship. You know, there's people out there that say like, not everyone can be an entrepreneur, right? Somebody's got to work for people. And I'm like, I get it. But I just think that we all have a talent, a gift, or something that we can move and press towards. And if that means we can monetize it or build a business around it, then I think it's best to go after that thing, no matter what it is, rather than settling for the job. Like I just, it's not about being the Michael Jordan or the Elon Musk or the Jeff Bezos. Not everybody's going to build a multi-billion-dollar company, but Gary Vee says this. But you might be able to make $40,000 a year doing your passion. You might be able to make $60,000 a year doing the thing that you're called to do. And because you think about life more like an entrepreneur, instead of getting $75,000 a year working at a job you hate, why not stick in the path that you would actually find passion, even if you make a little bit less? Is it going to kill your quality of life? Probably not, because you'll be more fulfilled because you're doing the thing that you love. So I'm a big advocate for entrepreneurship, man. For
sure. And while you're on the topic, shout out to my buddy Zach that just hopped on here. One of the things that we talked about earlier was like, am I ready for entrepreneurship? And something that we've circled back with that is, would you hire yourself? Is like the favorite question there. Like, are you a go-getter? Do you get after it? Do you care about the work? Like, do you do what it takes to get the job done? And people like my buddy Zach do exactly that. We built a hospital together. So when it comes to entrepreneurship and all the advocacy that we all have, obviously, I would like to remind people that, when it comes to that synergy and understanding yourself better through entrepreneurship, it's absolutely true. You get to see all of your own shadows and your strengths and your weaknesses. And like, you become a way better person because there is no blame. There is no blame the boss. There is no rely on the paycheck. It's like, no, you got to get after it. And you talked about how it changes your whole life. If you want the perfect synergy between your work and play, become an entrepreneur. You get to choose your rates. You get to choose your schedule. You get to choose where you work. You get to choose everything. Like it's the way to go. So I think, for anybody that's on the fence about it, like tackle some of these fears and answer some of these questions that we've talked about, because it is so worth it to me. And I'm sure it sounds like it's worth it to you guys too. We wouldn't be here talking about it if it wasn't.
Absolutely, man. Kobi, did you
I
have
think
something?
that piece, yeah, I think that piece, both of you just added. If you marry them together, Chris, like really bringing, you can make the same amount. Maybe you don't. Not every company goes public, but maybe you have a lifestyle company. Maybe you make 45 the first year, then you bump it up a little bit. But over time, you get to drive that, and you really have an opportunity to be creative. And Stu, what you just said too. I think really putting those two things together is really what ultimately leads somebody like myself to make the jump over the fence to really go for it.
That's huge, man. That's huge, and I think that's what a lot of people need, right? They just need a little bit more of that understanding to be able to kind of push them over the ledge, right, and really get after it. That last question that we had answered was, "Will I have to return to work?" Right, and we kind of veered off and we hit a little bit of it, but honestly, right, Stu, I think you summed it up on just like, so what if you do? Right? Like, so what if you do have to return to work? None of entrepreneurship is a journey. So again, these are thoughts that are real thoughts, but if it's a fear of yours, fear is false evidence appearing real, right? Nothing that fear is not, it's not even a real thing. So if your fear is that you're going to one day have to return to work, eliminate that, because there's nothing wrong with it. That's where you came from. That's where we all start, right? Like most of us, 98% of us, right, start off at a job to some degree. So it's just once you start to figure out what your skill sets are and what you want out of life, that allows you to then change the trajectory. But so what if you have to return to work? So what if you have to take a 6-month stint somewhere or a year stint somewhere just to make sure the bills get paid and you get back to that bare minimum, but you never stop working on the business, right? Like if that's the vision, if that's the goal, if that's the passion, if that's what you're headed towards, you never stop that. Damon John has this story. Damon John says, and I forget the years, but he said when he was building Fubu, he was running it and then he shut it down like 3 times in the matter of like 3 or 4 years, right? He would start it and then he would put it on the back burner for 9 months and go work at Red Lobster and get a job and right, build up some money. Then he puts his line back out and then he shuts it down again, right? Sometimes that's just what has to happen, but he never stopped working on Fubu, right? He never stopped. He just had to take that pause to go return to work and make some money and then come right back. So not putting so much value on the work or you becoming an entrepreneur and now you can never go back and get a job. Like, and it's something I struggled with in the past, just to be transparent and honest, right? I struggled with that, right? Stepping out into entrepreneurship land, right? And you're like, this is what I do. But then times get rough financially. And the question does always pop up, like, should I go get a job? Like, it's our safety. It's what we know. It's what all of us know. So of course that's going to pop in our mind. But then it's just, do you stop working on your business? Do you throw in the towel completely? How do you handle that moment? And sometimes it's okay to go get a little stint at a place. It's perfectly fine as long as you get right back to what was fulfilling you and the place that you wanted to be in business. So big fan.
I think you really hit that on the head, man. I think you can't emphasize that enough because it gives you a sense of freedom to take that risk and still have plenty of safety. Actually, there's actually plenty of safety. You could just go get a job.
That's like, the key. I always tell
you're
people
right
that.
there.
Like the job's not going anywhere. Jobs are not going anywhere. So
especially now,
like you take this leap. So what if you have to go back and get a job? It'll be there for you. Don't worry. It'll be there.
And I bet you come back a better employee.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I bet if you come back a better employee. You appreciate that dental care.
Absolutely. You just appreciate not having to like do things, like not be in charge. That would be the thing that you just are proud of. Like, man, at least I got a boss. Oh, it's his fault, right? You can't say that. Like, you can't say that. You can just be like, I don't know, it was that guy. It wasn't me.
Did I do my? Oh, I did do my job. Yep.
Shout out to everybody that has a job, by the way. We're joking on, but like it's a blessing, right? To not have the same amounts of pressure sometimes, that it takes to be the entrepreneur. But jump in there, Stu. I know you're about to say something.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that came up. I think the first one is like, we already talked about, what if I had to return to work? So what? Having like, if you have to go back to work, like you may find out, like we were saying here, you might become a better employee because of everything you learned about yourself. You might find yourself out of your comfort zone in a different industry because of everything you learned. You might actually go on the. I actually know somebody that just mentioned this to me today. They went out and they were working on becoming a coach, and they decided at one point that they wanted to take on a part-time coaching gig to help support what they're doing full-time in their own practice. So now they've gone back to work, but now they're doing what they love.
Sure.
Win-win. And I think the other thing is, like, we talked about, what a blessing it is to have a job. That's absolutely right. Like, the unemployment rate anywhere from I think it's like 4 to 10% or something like that, depending on the year or whatever. Like, what that means is that there's 90 to 96% of people that have a job. So your chances of going back to whatever and getting a job are really, really good. Really good. So help utilize that as motivation to go take a risk, plan it out, make educated decisions, weigh your options, and just go take the risk. Because what if you have to go back to work? I can say it in a positive way now. It's your safety net. You're good.
That's it, man. That's huge. So, guys, we got a few more questions, but we're coming towards the end. We want to take one more question.
Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, we can save it for Clubhouse.
Yeah, right. We could. Here, I just like this question. I think this is the one that we got to do. Like, how do I know when to quit? Right? Like, how do I know when to change it up and pivot? I left us 2 minutes to answer this question, just live in Clubhouse right after this. But real quick, 1 minute for each of you. What's your thoughts on how the entrepreneur is supposed to think about, like, hey, when do I pivot? When do I quit? When should I change it?
I'll go first, take the first fire round here. So for me, the answer lies in the question itself. When do I know when to quit? What is your definition of quitting? And what are you calling quitting? I think that's where some insight really lies. And I would rephrase it to, how do I powerfully complete? Because you powerfully complete every business, regardless of if you're the founder or not. There's lots of founders that are no longer involved with their business. They didn't quit necessarily. Some were pushed out. But there's a lot of that going on as well. Speaking of founder, it's funny, we mentioned that a little earlier. I will give the rest of my time to Stu.
So I think on my end, I love how you're always getting specific with the definitions. I think it's crucial. Like if quitting means going back to work, just to play off of that one, then I would say, that you have to go back to work when all of a sudden you're amassing debt and it's beginning to get a little bit too uncomfortable. It's beginning to get away from you. There's a good chance that you take on some debts when you start a business, but if you get to a point where you're looking at it and you've been tracking your progress and you've been tracking, like, let's say your credit card debt for whatever purchases you're making for your business, if it starts to get to a point where you cannot fathom being able to take a chunk out of that, like the interest rate on your debt is larger than you'll be able to work on and narrow down and get revenue from your business, maybe that's a good opportunity to consider getting a part-time job to supplement that, or go back to full-time, make this thing a side hustle as you iron it out. But that's not, like Kobi was saying, that's not necessarily quitting. You could be going through with what Chris had with the FUBU example. So going on and off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
1,000% true. You guys hit the nail on the head, and I think that's a great way to wrap up. You don't even need my 2 cents because you guys said it. You made it happen. Again,
gave you a quarter.
There we go. So knowing when to quit, it's really about perspective. It's really about what your definition of quitting actually is. Let's jump into Clubhouse, guys. Another Wednesday. Well, this is the first Wednesday night. Again, we're coming back now every single Wednesday night for this live stream. Thank you for joining us, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us. We're coming back next Wednesday. For now, let's jump into Clubhouse. Let's finish up this conversation. Hopefully you guys all took some great stuff from it. And this week, hey, continuing to live the good life. We'll see you in Clubhouse.